Hello everybody, and welcome to the channel here at MeteoMark Weather. I have your winter 2024-2025 outlook here. We are looking at a weak La Nina this winter, and that's probably going to last at least through the first half of the winter. Last week La Nina winter that we did have was 2022-2023. The first half of the winter, as I said, will likely be a weak La Nina. The second half will probably be more closer to neutral, and I think we'll be pretty much on target or very close to the 2016-2017 winter where it was a weak La Nina. Let's get into all the particulars here, and I'll show you what I think is going to happen this winter, and we'll go over all the parameters as well. Let's get into it. So for the ENSO index here, we're looking at a weak La Nina the first part of the winter here. This takes us through much of January as well. But look at as we get into February and March here, into early April, we start to get into that neutral phase. So we'll see the weak La Nina through the first half of the winter, but more towards the second half, we're going to be more into a neutral type of phase. One note I do want to make about that transition towards a neutral phase come the second half of winter, it does take a little while for that to wear off, the weak La Nina effects, as the atmosphere slowly resets itself. So, you know, I think a good part of the winter, about 75% of it, will be through a weak La Nina impacts and effects. So here's our popular storm tracks this winter for a weak La Nina. Typical weak La Nina, we see those storms riding pretty far to the south here, Pacific Northwest, down through the northern Rockies, and into the plains, diving southward here across the Ohio Valley. And many of them will spin up here into parts of the eastern Great Lakes, pulling up some warmer air on the east side with rain and mixed precipitation. Now, look at this. It's going to pull down some frigid, snowy conditions here into the white zones. I expect that to head east a lot, so we could actually see this above average snowfall here, which I'll show you just on the snowfall map momentarily here. Stormier than average conditions here into the pink zone. This is the wild card zone because we could have two popular storm tracks here. This one will be the most popular, I think, this winter season. And then, of course, we could have a couple coastal lows that come out here and try to deepen and give us some snow opportunities for parts of the Northeast and New England here. So at least it may be a little bit snowier in the Northeast, especially than the last couple winters here. And I'll break that down for you in the next map. Now, along the East Coast, you can see this orange zone. This is where you're going to see above average temperatures, also stretching across much of the deep south into the Southwest and the desert Southwest as well, and most of California. Exception, Northern California will remain cool. So the southern branch of the jet stream remains quite weak under a weak La Nina. And the northern branch, this is where the action is going to be. So your all-important snowfall forecast that I'm expecting this winter. Yes, a lot of you in the East have been wondering, when is winter going to return? When are we actually going to get accumulating snow? Now, I do have some bad news for the Mid-Atlantic into parts of the I-95 corridor. It is looking about 10 to 20% comparing where you are to an average winter. You know, in the yellow, 10% below average snowfall. And in the orange, we're looking at about 20% below average there. That includes southern New Jersey down through Delmarva Peninsula, and then all the way down in through parts of the south here, the Carolinas, northern Georgia, and northern Alabama, even clipping parts of the southern Appalachians here. So yeah, even though this is less than average, this is still going to be above what you've seen the last couple winters because you've seen practically almost nothing comparing to average. And so this is going to be a little bit below, but it's not going to be a total waste of a winter. So if we get up here into parts of the eastern Great Lakes, look at this, into the northern part of the Northeast, especially the interior Northeast, this is where I think we stand a chance of seeing 10% higher than average snowfall here into the light blue. And look at that dark blue. That's a 20%. That stretches from Chicago over to Detroit, Cleveland, Erie, Buffalo, Syracuse, all the way up into northern New England here and southeast Canada. Look at this. This area across the Midwest, you're going to get hammered because you're going to get these Colorado lows that come out here like this, and you're also going to get these storm systems that ride up the Mississippi and Ohio River Valley. So I think you're really going to get clobbered with some pretty good snow accumulations up here, looking at 30% from the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and into southern Ontario here. We can stretch this back too, because that jet stream is going to be plowing southward here across the Pacific Northwest, and that's where we're going to see a lot of mountain snow here, even snowfall levels at times lowering to the valley floors. I think that's where you'll see up to 20 to 30% above your average snowfall here, especially into the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies. Now, for the below average, of course, lots of the deep south here, you don't see much to begin with, so we're going to knock about 10 to 20% off here because that is what we're looking at with a weaker than average jet stream and warmer than average temperatures. With that weaker La Nina, you get that southern branch that's not as active. And up here across the north, this is where the jet stream is going to be really active. You get the two jet streams coming together usually, and sometimes you can get some phasing up here. Now, you're probably wondering, do we have any chance of those nor'easter type systems here along the East Coast? It's quite possible. I think some of these could dive down in here into parts of the Ohio Valley and spin up. It's not going to be a common thing, but I think it's going to be more than what you've seen the last couple of winters. Now, if we take a look at temperature-wise this winter, we're looking well above average here across the south. Obviously, that subtropical jet stream riding to the north. Here across the northeast corridor, yeah, I know what you mean here. We're looking at another above average temperatures here for this winter season. However, it's more closer to 1, maybe 2 degrees Fahrenheit above average, especially towards the coastline here. So this is actually going to be averaging a little bit cooler than the last couple winters, and we may get some cooler air shots here from the north here. Pacific Northwest all the way spilling down here towards the upper Midwest. There may be times where some of this cold air is allowed to spill further east. If you take a look at the Midwest, all the way back through the Rockies and the Pacific Northwest, southern Canada here, this is where we're going to be looking at 2 degrees Fahrenheit below average here. So this is where we're going to see all of that snow, ice, frigid Arctic blast take place. And if you look here across the central and western Great Lakes, yeah, northern Ohio, all the way back towards Chicago, Detroit, yeah, this could be quite a harsh winter for you as far as temperatures. Looking at precipitation amounts for this winter, it's going to be well above average here in the Midwest, parts of the Ohio Valley, the upper Mississippi River Valley. This is going to stretch a little bit eastward too and get into parts of the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Unfortunately, along the East Coast here, we're going to be a little bit below average, especially down here into parts of the Southeast from the Outer Banks, down along the Gulf Coast and stretching out to the desert Southwest here. Also stretching into some of the mountains of Arizona and New Mexico. Look at the Pacific Northwest, though. That's where you're going to see a lot of these storms parade in. And by the way, this is liquid equivalent precipitation. This isn't snowfall. So this is fair game for rainfall as well. And I think as we get some of these low pressures that ride up, and even the valleys here in the Pacific Northwest, we'll see a lot of above average rainfall here, total liquid equivalent precipitation. One thing to note here in New England, I do have you a little bit above average in the snowfall, but below average precipitation. That's going to work out to more snow and less rain events up here. One thing that I found interesting here on the climate.gov page, you can see this is during a typical La Nina winter. You can see what's going on here with respect to higher than average snowfall here across parts of the Midwest lakes. Look at the Pacific Northwest here. And then really, really low-end snowfall here in the brown areas. That includes parts of the Mid-Atlantic there, down in through parts of the Appalachians, as well as the Southwest here. Now watch what happens. Just slide this to the left, and you can see weak La Nina. You get tremendously more snow here across the north, even into interior New York and Pennsylvania, into interior New England. In the Midwest here, a big bullseye, and then pretty healthy here for snowfall in through parts of the Pacific Northwest as well. But look at just to the south here in the Mid-Atlantic. Any way you push this, we are looking at well below average snowfall here across much of the Mid-Atlantic and the Appalachians. And we can essentially do the same here for all La Nina winters. You can see, look at this across the deep south here. You got a lot of areas in this deep dark red, Gulf Coast areas, southwestern U.S., even up into the Mid-Atlantic here, you're averaging well above average. Now look at here across the north, you can see these darker areas. You're a little bit below average here into the lakes and especially the Pacific Northwest. Now, let's just move this over here to the left. And weak La Nina winters. It seems to be even more pronounced here across the southeast and the deep south, out here into the southwest. But look at this. We have some gray areas up here across the Midwest, even into a little bit into the interior northeast here. So I think winter could go either way. It's going to be a battleground zone, as I was telling you, showing you earlier in the video, across parts of the Midwest and into the northeast. So if we take a look at sea surface temperatures, I just wanted to make note of something for you. The Gulf and the Caribbean is still running very well above average sea surface, even up into parts, spottiness up into parts of the East Coast, off the East Coast here. This will have implications because it will help to keep the Southeast warmer than average. It's a given with those warmer sea surface temperatures. But we could have some of those Arctic outbreaks at times, not like one right after another, but coming down from the northwest. This could help create a baroclinic zone at times and help spin up some stronger low pressure systems. Not to say we'll have an endless supply of nor'easters, but we're coming out of a couple of winters here where we have a massive snow deficit. So this winter will feel a little closer to average, still not where we should be, for snowfall though, especially across much of the East Coast areas. As you can see out here into the Eastern Pacific, we have some of those lighter and maybe some moderate blues. I wouldn't call them particularly dark blue areas. This means that weak La Nina is pretty prevalent here. And just to the north, we have some warmer than average waters. So throughout the winter, we're going to see that push towards a more neutral phase the second half of the winter. Also wanted to make a little correlation here to the winter of 2016-2017 because that was a weak La Nina and we were getting out of a weaker El Nino that summer. So this is the storm we got in March 18th of 2017 across much of the interior northeast here. Look at this. This was the blizzard that dropped anywhere from 24 to as much as 36 inches plus in interior New York and northeast Pennsylvania, up through northern New York and northern Vermont, and even some widespread 12 to 18 amounts all the way down into eastern Pennsylvania, western New York, and lots of 12 to 18 amounts across parts of New England. So you can get these scenarios where you get these bombing nor'easters, even with a weak La Nina here. And this is probably the best example I can give you of maybe we get one storm where we catch up on the snowfall from the past couple of seasons. And just a little correction there, we were coming out of one of the strongest El Ninos, 2015 heading on into 2016, but it started to weaken as we headed through late summer. So it's kind of like a similar correlation here. We have that El Nino that was weakening throughout, the summer into the fall of 2016, and then we got into this weak La Nina. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and we could maybe have a storm or two, maybe potentially like this. And averaging out our CFS monthly here it is, the month of December. There's the storminess, denoted here by this light blue, ridge out west, big ridge out west. You know what that does for the PNA out here? This always usually means the big trough here across the east. So it's looking promising here for some storms, maybe some snowstorms, winter storms here back east from the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, onto the East Coast. Now, as we head through January, the pattern flattens out a little bit. We still have this big ridge out here in the Gulf of Alaska. You know what that always means, though? You can get some pretty big storms back here across the east, and this is for January. So what happens once we start to get to February here? It's interesting. This model's actually showing things get even troughier. So it's something we'll have to keep an eye on. It has to do with what's going on out here into the Gulf of Alaska. Look at that. That's a huge ridge. That would promote that typical weak La Nina pattern. By this point, though, we could start to cross over more neutral. And as we head on into March, yeah, this is what I was talking about. Later on in the winter, things might start to flip here across the east and we'll get well above average, and then we'll get that below average precipitation kicking in. But at least through about 3/4 of the winter, we're looking troughy here across the east. Flipping over to the CANSIPS model here. Let's back this up just a little bit. There we go. December. Here's for November. I wanted to show you November. It averaged out here to, ridging in the east, but as of late, that troughiness has kicked in. Now, the Cansips is a little more pessimistic when it comes to snowfall here. Look at this big, ridging across much of North America, but you do see this trough. It is here. It's not massive on the Cansips model. And then we start to see January here. This trough starts to propagate across the Pacific Northwest, and it looks like it's heading in the general direction here. Let's take a look at February on the Cansips. It kind of stays up there. So the Cansips is really stubborn, with the southeast ridge here. And it's going to be interesting to see because this northern branch of the jet stream is still going to be active here. So we could still see some pretty good snowstorms, rain-snow mixed precipitation, that sort of thing. And this is into March. Very stubborn, that ridge here across the southeast. We take a look at the NMME model, I should say. Here we go. Yeah, so November, things averaged out temperature-wise here, temperature anomalies. If we take a look, we can take a look at precipitation anomalies. There we go. This is what we'll... Actually, let's just back that up. I do want to take a look at temperature anomalies here. This is kind of interesting. So as we progress through December here, it's showing above average pretty much the 2/3 of eastern North America. As we head into January as well, it starts to cool off up here as typical of a weak La Nina up here in the Pacific Northwest and Western Canada. But all winter long, our NMME model continues to show a raging furnace here across the east. Now, if we take a look at our precipitation, below average here, denoted by the yellow on our scale here, above average Pacific Northwest, West Coast, even up here into Northeast Canada. So as we continue through January, here it is, showing above average precipitation here across where I think is going to happen here, the upper Mississippi River Valley, Ohio River Valley, up through the eastern Great Lakes into the northeast sections, also the Pacific Northwest out here. So this model's really showing up good for January. Look at that, February as well. So we're looking, whatever falls here, it's going to be heavier than average. And I think some of these could be some snow, ice, mixed precipitation type things. We will get a lot of rain scenarios as well. This is heading on into March, so this kind of sinks a little bit further south into the Ohio Valley, into the mid-upper Mississippi River Valley. Here's our CFS weekly model. It's not always the best model to use here, but this has been the trend across the east. This takes us through the second week of December here. You can see that troughiness, big ridge out west, and this pretty much agrees with many of the models as well as the short-term, medium-term outlook. Now, as we head through the middle part of December, things start to ridge out here on the CFS. So, and then we do start to get that troughiness right around the third, fourth week of December here. You can see eastern North America. There'll be some storminess in the area. And don't forget, everyone, don't forget to tell me in the comment section down below what you think of this upcoming winter. Are you ready for more of a wintry type of condition after the last couple winters, or are you ready for more of the same? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget, smash that like button. Also, share the video with all your friends and family. It really does help everyone. Subscribe and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future winter storm updates. So there you have it. And check out my affiliate here in the next minute or so for some awesome, amazing maps that you can use for just about anything. Take a look. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. I want to thank everybody for joining me for this edition of Winter 2024-2025 Outlook. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe, bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future winter storm updates. I'll also get monthly outlooks out as well on this winter and fine-tune my forecast. So look out for that. Subscribe, bell notification button, smash that like button, question or comment down below. It really does help everyone. I love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, MeteoMark.com, also Facebook at MeteoMark, and you can also visit me at Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget, everybody, watch for all my future weather updates. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Thanks for your support.